Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now on with the show.
Welcome to 221B Baker Street, by way of the Southgate Bridge. I am Sherlock Holmes. This is my colleague, Dr. Watson. Actually, I am your host, Zachary Hare, and while she is not Watson, she is the Watson to my home, Kristen Deere.
Hey!
We have an interesting episode this week. Do we not?
Very different. Well, it's different from any of the others they've ever done.
Yes, they pull a Columbo.
Yep.
Where we know who the killer is. Although different from Columbo, and Columbo we usually knew why they did with the killer. This one we don't know the why. We just know who she is.
Right.
It's a unique thing to try. In this week's episode, When Your Number's Up.
It's not my favorite, but it's nice to have a little and she was sufficiently creepy, so.
Oh, yeah. And I'm actually a fan of her. I was like, she looked familiar to me, and she's, because she was on a sitcom I used to watch. She played the daughter in Sybil.
Oh, yeah. I've seen her other places, too.
Oh, of course. That's just the thing that jumped out at me because I watched that show so much. And she's just bat blank crazy, this killer.
She's completely a sociopath.
Oh, definitely. But without...
Well, except that not exactly, because she doesn't. I guess that it's more like a psychopath. I
think it could be sociopath because the whole point of a sociopath is they can't feel empathy.
Right.
And I don't know if it's either socio or psycho. There's probably a specific word for someone like that who, it's like someone who can turn off their emotions when it comes to. Because she probably loves her husband. I don't know. We never really got any insight into that. But it's like she could shut off her emotions when it comes to getting her money.
Well, aren't sociopaths better at hiding the fact that they're nuts?
Oh, yeah. They are that's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's not so good at hiding it.
So, yeah. So probably not a sociopath. So we have definitely a nice starter scene.
Yes, that was hilarious. I love it. Luke doesn't speak, yet he speaks volumes with his one facial expression, which is kind of like, why are you talking to me? Stop talking. I work now.
He is a very large man.
Yeah.
And of course... I just love the idea of Holmes. It's not even a couple of guys. It's one guy.
Yeah, one guy. One huge guy.
Although the guy looked like he was holding a heavy package and not even straining, so...
At first I thought that it... I was right. I mean, because Sherlock seems disappointed, and I was kind of surprised at first that he seemed disappointed that she didn't want her... Well, I guess it was more disappointment that she didn't want her things anymore, which was a little bit...
Well, we find out later why he's feeling what he's feeling. It's because he's even though, of course, and it's like an old saying, like someone will say, "I do want this, but I don't want it like that."
Right.
Like,
yeah.
if you want someone to date you, but then they only date you to make their ex angry, you don't want their love that way.
And it goes with what he had said in the last episode too, and he's said it before. You know, he likes the idea of her having her own things. You know, it's like she's giving up and giving in to make his world hers instead of theirs. You know, where's her part in it? He wants it to be their world.
Exactly. And he just wants her to move in for the right reasons.
Right.
And I love that. I mean, this was almost a favorite line. It's like, you're coming into my house. You broke into my house. You're taking my things. I'm pretty sure that's burglary.
Yeah.
And then he goes, I did not break in. I've told you repeatedly to change that lock.
It's basically like an open door. It's so funny how he's concerned, you know? I mean, it for her safety. That's what that whole thing is about.
Right.
It's like a kind of like a parent, you know, like don't go out on your own without being careful, you know.
Yeah. So we move on to who we know right from the start. I like that. I wonder if the writers tweeted why they decided to try this time, because they're obviously never doing it again. It was just this one time.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I mean, they've done that sometimes, tried things a different way, see if it works in the style. And I think I mean, it's not the worst idea, us knowing the killer, and we learn with Holmes why they did it.
Right.
I don't know. I just like having complete mystery. Oh, and it is better. I'd rather have that than the obvious guy that's the killer the whole episode.
Yeah. Well, I did like it for a change. I just, you know, it's just not my favorite. You know, it's
Right.
not my favorite. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if they did this like once or twice a season.
Well, as long as the killer is sufficiently creepy, which she is. I mean, the killer has to be a good character.
And you know, it really shows acting chops to be a beautiful woman and be a creepy killer.
Oh yeah, even her smile. I mean, if you think about it, she has a beautiful smile, but it looks so creepy. It's like, how does she do that? And she's so completely and utterly cold-hearted. You know, to act so, it's like, oh, the nice man, you know. She's helping the little homeless man. And then,
by the way, the jeweler, she's just like, she's like, oh, I'm gonna need to see receipt. I'm sorry, these were gifts from my husband. Yeah, let me just say this: only a rich white woman could get away with that.
yeah.
Like, oh, these were gifts from my husband. Oh, okay, well, I'll give you some money then. Yeah, any one of us normal people, a button would be pushed, the cage would go down, the cops would be called.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know that it's realistic even with her, because she was.
Oh yeah, I know.
Creepy, even when she was being, you know, I don't know. Although, I don't know, some people fall for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know. You almost want her to say, yes, they were a gift from my husband. He said I could sell them as I put the last shovel of dirt onto him.
Yeah.
And then we get when she a nice little moment with the homeless man.
Oh, God.
And she's like, hey, remember me? I got you a sandwich. I wanted to give you something.
Man, she's like beyond evil here. I mean, because at first you're thinking, oh, maybe she's not so creepy, you know? She's like a nice lady, and then all of a sudden, oh man, she's like the worst. It's like takes a really evil person.
Yeah, so yeah. And then she leaves money, which is weird. So they of course, Holmes and Watson and Gregson and Bell are all on the scene. They're checking things out. And the weird thing is they can tell from the evidence, as we saw, she shot him and then put the money on him, put $8,000 on him, and then they find the algorithm, and we get a little Harlan reference here.
And maths.
Yes, that's why we need Harlan. And it turns out, and Harlan does pretty good this time, because it's pretty quick, and he recognizes it as one of the math problems they use to calculate compensation.
Yeah.
Essentially how much someone is worth.
I do wish we could have seen Harlan in person.
And it's probably quicker to do it that way.
Yeah.
So then they find out it's attributed the formula and the quote is attributed to a man named Arlen Schrader. And
And I like the way because he was just talking about Harlan, and then Sherlock goes, Arlen. He like very specifically, because they're similar names.
right.
Anyway.
And they're talking about how it doesn't make like it's a weird thing to kill someone then leave the money and the right and wrong. They talk a little bit. Well, the whole episode talks about the right and wrong of Now, if we make a personal, I mean, of course, the idea is sound. Like, 'cause you have to. If someone dies in an accident, you might want to figure it out that way. But a lot of companies use it to, of course, a negative edge.
And I like the way Sherlock explains it. His line, husband-shaped pile of money.
Oh, and how about the newest term for blood money?
Yeah.
So they don't think Sherlock immediately says he's not. This guy's probably not. They all say he's probably not the killer, but they still got to go talk to him, figure out. This nice man there immediately says, "Oh, this was taken off context. I do this, I do that."
I thought it was interesting how he appears so outwardly happy, until his ex-wife is mentioned.
Oh yeah, and then he offers up his ex as a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. And then the ex, it's weird how the ex is so angry, but says that she's happy to be done with it.
And she's obviously has better morals than him.
But then we find out why, because the prenup. Anyway, I thought that was funny how he appears outwardly happy and she's outwardly angry, and she's the good person and he's the kind of opposite world there.
Right.
The whole thing was opposite world, really. Because at first it didn't make any sense that she would kill people to make less money and seem so focused on money. And
right. Well, that was the point.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we find out later it's not actually opposite world, but.
Yes, and so then we get our next little bit, the support group, and this, oh man, we have the guy talk about how his brother who died in the plane crash supported him, and he kind of resented himself because of his brother. No matter what, his brother kept helping him, and after he shares these very profound emotions, he's getting a little nookie in the shower.
Yeah. That was a quick little. I mean, if you blinked, you would have missed it. But
here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
When you rewatch the episode, because obviously you already know she's a killer, but you don't know why she's there. But when you rewatch the episode, you're like, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. She's so. Yeah. I mean, she's just so creepy. It's just weird.
And it's creepy because if you really listen, you think, oh, she's just seduced him that one time. No, she's been having an ongoing hookup with him just so she could kill him.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the part where they're talking and she finds out he smokes.
Oh God.
I'm going a little out of sequence here, but I feel it's.
Yeah.
But and then she's like, no, it just changes the math.
Yeah, I mean, she gets more and more cold and evil as throughout the episode. You see that she's even worse than you thought she was. And I thought it was interesting how she had 3 piles and she took away exactly 1 pile. So it makes me wonder what he could have done to remove another of the 2 remaining piles.
Well, because they do stuff like that. Like if someone's even like if you're a smoker, how much of a smoker were you? They
Right. But it's like she planned ahead with 3 piles. So it's like, oh, if he smokes, then I'll take away this pile. You know what I mean? It's like she planned that ahead.
And the thing that's crazy is, I mean, 8,000 is a good amount for poor people anyways. But really, in New York, in some circles, or even with a family, 8,000 is really not that much.
Yeah.
But 80,000?
Yeah.
It's like all the poor people at home going, screw you! It's because it's like, what?
Yeah.
80,000 would pay off. Even with paying off my student loans, I'd still have plenty left over for, I think, a good 5 years or longer.
Yeah, it's pretty nice amount there.
Yeah.
I mean, you could live on, yeah, I mean, you can live on a really small amount depending on where you go, and you just cut out all the non-essentials.
I'd have one trip to Scotland and that's it. Actually, I'd go to Scotland, not come back. I can afford to have $80,000.
Yeah.
Oh man, but I think that's part of the point. It's how crazy and greedy she really is. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just that she's nuts. I mean, she's really just evil. And that smile, oh, so creepy and
well,
evil.
she's greedy. I mean, this is a very
Yeah. It
specific.
goes beyond just greed, though. I mean, because it seems like she enjoys that smile she gets when she kills people. It's like she enjoys the killing, the process as well.
And
It's not just greed.
and the methodical nature and intelligence it'd have to take to be able to figure out the worst. Like she does it with him as they're talking.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, you smoke. Then that would mean this much." It's like she did the math in her head instantly.
I mean, the fact that the sister, well, we'll get to that.
Oh, yes, we
ahead.
will. So, of course, we get that little scene where Watson going downstairs, and I'm not exactly sure, because I don't think those are single sticks. I'm not exactly sure exactly what the names of those particular weapons are, but...
It's double sticks.
Oh, gee. You sound like a kid's toy commercial. Hey, kids, it's double sticks!
That's what it sounds like if you say it. It sounds like a kid's toy. Double sticks.
Actually, it sounds like it's really like. Imagine, do I get an iPhone? You only get double sticks, and you just see a kid sitting there with two sticks. What am I supposed to do with these? And nobody.
It sounds like a game, actually. Like
yeah.
Let's play double sticks.
All right. So how do you play? You get two sticks, and that's pretty much the game. Double Sticks, the sponsor of the Baker Street podcast.
What?
I said Double Sticks, the sponsor of the Baker Street podcast. Email the show, get free double
sticks.
No, you'll get email the show. You'll get instructions how to make your own double sticks. Step 1.
Oh, I was gonna say you get double sticks with instructions on how to play.
Well, or you can play it at home. Step 1, go into the woods. Step 2, get a stick. Step 3, get another stick. Step 4, steps are finished. So
start playing.
Yes. So they're talking. Watson can't.
Wait, well, okay, so we're on she goes downstairs. Yeah. It's hilarious that she can't sleep because there's no noise.
I'm like, I can't sleep without a fan on. Well, I can sleep, but I sleep better with a fan on or some white noise or something.
Yeah, I like a fan. I always have a fan.
That's why it was funny about the Dyson fan. It's like, oh, it has no noise, and I'm going, now what's the point?
Right. I like a nice noisy fan.
Oh yeah, I like it because it blots everything out. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, exactly. It really does. I mean, especially in a small room, it's like a wind tunnel, you know?
Exactly. This has been Fan Talk with Kristen and Zach.
Double Sticks and Fans.
We have a new podcast name. Double Sticks and Fans.
And not fans like fans of the show. No, we're talking fans.
It makes me think of that first scene of Crystal Eccleston's Doctor when he's in Doctor Who. He gets in the carriage with Charles Dickens. And he's like, "Oh, I'm such a big fan." And of course, they didn't use the word for that back then. He goes, "A fan." In what way are you a device to keep me cool?
Yes.
Who knows what we'll talk about? What's scintillating repartee in the Baker Street podcast? So she goes downstairs.
But you know what? It's actually, in a way, it's a rude awakening by waking her up by being too quiet.
So let's call that a polite awakening, an unintentional courteous awakening.
Yeah.
How dare you move your exercises downstairs?
Yeah. I know. It was funny that she was upset with him for, being too quiet, basically. But I mean, that's not the real reason. We see that she's getting more and more annoyed.
But he's not doing anything.
Right. she, she's taking everything the wrong way. And we don't find out until later, but the reason she's acting kind of strange is because she's stewing over things that don't exist. She's like making up kind of, what he's doing in her mind, and it's all wrong.
Right. So they have a bit of a chat here, and he makes that. I like the line where he says, "Lack of sleep. You need your energy to be a detective, unlike me."
Right.
Which is weird because if you remember, the last episode,
Yeah.
he fell asleep.
Yeah.
So that scene, the fact that I don't know why, but last week when he fell asleep just stuck with me because, like I said, he almost always stays up.
Right. Well, maybe. I mean, I think it was because he was at her house.
I know but what?
I mean, he usually stays up when he's at home, so maybe being in a strange place makes him fall asleep. And he was pretty bored by what she was watching on TV too.
Oh God, his face last week when that was the greatest thing ever. So,
but this is a new week.
I know, but his face is just like that's the same face I make when I watch sports. But anyways,
it was too good not to talk about it. That was like just several really awesome scenes in the last episode.
So we obviously next was the murder scene, which we already talked about. Then we get the coroner scene, and Bell's got some really good clips about the guy's bad band. He's like, yes, he's 41 and a drummer in a band no one's ever heard of. And then a little bit later, he says, I guess the killer thought he was never going to get famous at 40.
Yeah. Yeah, he does mention that. So there's like a little theme there with this guy.
Yeah. So they tell him how the money was left, and it turns out this was another beneficiary of the plane crash, and they're still not sure why the killer's doing it. This time he left a note to the CEO of the plane company, and they're confused by the motive. So then, which pretty much sums up that scene, and then we get to see him watch.
Well, it changes the whole suspect pool.
Right. Oh, yes, of course. And then we get the scene. Well, they haven't made that decision yet. I think it's after they talk to the execs that they make that leap fully. And then we get that little scene at Watson's apartment where the turns out like he's gushing over Watson as a tenant.
Right.
Just say what you really mean, dude.
That is very rare, though, actually, to have such a good tenant.
Yeah. Oh, please tell that landlord to say what you mean. You're gonna miss the hot tenant. Come on. But yes, that was shallow. I know. So he finds him updating a lock, and I love how she knows the brand. The second he says it, it's like,
what's your favorite?
Oh, it's the Octoliber lock because it sounded whatever the German word he's used was Fenster, whatever lock it was, and she just looks like, oh God. I love how she says the lock and the guy goes, yeah. How did you know?
Yeah.
And she just knows. She's like, you almost wanted to see her go Sherlock.
Yeah, I mean her face says it all.
Yeah, it really does. So,
and then they make a little political statement on gun control.
Yes. So we get this scene here with they're talking with the execs from the company, and they're telling them about using the algorithms to figure out the benefits and how and work, and they're asking questions about any ideas they have to kill. It turns out because of the killings, they can't use. It would be bad for them to use any of the companies that use that kind of system. So they are thinking about very seriously considering moving to a fixed sum. And I love that moment where because normal poor people would be like, wait a minute, wouldn't that make more sense? Why wouldn't they do that? And Sherlock just goes, because it would cost them more money.
Yeah.
And so with that,
I skipped ahead before. That's why I was So the political statement on gun control wasn't until later.
Yeah, I was gonna let that one slide, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, but if you want to expose your own mistakes, that's your choice. I was gonna let it slide. Please, please. I was calling Alfredo Alfonso for a whole season, so what can I say?
That's so
I
wrong.
know. Alfredo's an Italian name, so it's even worse for me. I literally kept saying Alfonso, and then one day I'm like, oh, his name's Alfredo, who we haven't seen in a while.
No, we haven't.
He's been,
Now we're going in a whole other direction here.
I know. So, yes, we're pointing out our mistakes.
Yes.
So, they figure out, logically, oh, it's interesting because this is Sherlock. It's interesting because we know Sherlock is making the wrong deduct. Well, do we? No, we don't. Well, no. Because we don't. Obviously, we know this woman has money, but we don't know the full.
Right. We don't know until later. So there is a new suspect pool and all the deductions are correct. It's just that it's a little bit opposite world like I was talking about
Right.
at first. It's like, why is everything backwards?
Right. Why, if she's one of the people that needs money, why is she like? As when we meet her, she's redecorating the house. But so their original deduction is that it must be one of the people in lower class, so they can get more, because any of the first class people would have been getting less money if with the fixed sum. So they go from that point of origin. So then we get a nice little scene with the sisters.
Right. But also, and this next scene is where we start to learn that, oh, she's not, there is something up. She's not so rich. You know, she's going to lose her house,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So,
Am I going forward again?
no, this is the scene when she's talking with her sister, who happens to also be her accountant. But I think, right, it's a short thing. You blink and you missed it. But we get that scene in the beginning where she's exercising in front of the news.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah. You can just focus on that for a while. I'm going to think about something else.
Okay.
Crazy lady exercising.
Yeah. Well, I love how she's got like no expression, and she's watching the news. Just.
Yeah, everything about her is just crazy and evil and creepy and weird and yucky.
Like you said, we find out that she's got money troubles, and she's like, I'm working on a project.
Yeah.
She's like,
and I like how, her version of a bigger fuss seems really terrifying.
Oh, yeah, we were all like, oh, God, who she's going to kill next?
Yeah.
But, and she's like, I like how she's ridiculous. She's like, I need a change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we are then back at the brownstone where Holmes.
Now the statement about gun control.
Yes. So Holmes has figured out what everyone's worth, and he's actually checking out beneficiaries attached to violent crimes. And which makes perfect sense with the information he has. And this is when Watson confronts him about buying her apartment. I love how he gives a little look up when she says that, and then he's like, I was promised that work wouldn't be done that day. Like he planned ahead, so he obviously was trying to do it so she wouldn't find out.
Yeah.
And she's mad. Now, you think we're getting snarky Watson again, but really not, because imagine, because from her perspective, it looked like he was going move in, and then she moves in, and then he goes, well.
Right. So, I mean, but she basically lets it all out, and then that ring before Sherlock can formulate his response, so that we see all the stewing and stuff, and we don't learn right away that she's wrong, that Sherlock had a good reason.
Right. And they've done that a few times actually in the show. We think Sherlock's being selfish, actually he has altruistic reasons.
And I also like Sherlock's he gets so annoyed when he answers the phone to Gregson.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, we find out
his little annoyed face is pretty good.
We find out that the gun was purchased at a gun show in Virginia, which of course requires no paperwork, and we'll leave that political statement where it lies.
Yeah.
But amazingly, which I find really hard to believe, the gun owner remembers the buyer, sold hundreds of guns probably in a day, but remembers one guy with a limp, and of course, no, wait, as Sherlock says, limp,
Yeah.
limp. I've heard other like British people pronounce limp like that, limp. Like Rowan Atkinson, he said that too. He'll say it like limp, limp. That's the rest of a podcast. Just me and Kristen just going limp.
In fact, I'm gonna shorten it. I'm gonna do the short version and just go.
Wait, we'll do it together. Okay, limp. There you go. No, wait, Kristen will say limp, and I'll say quaha.
Okay.
That'll be the whole podcast. Just limp quaha. Or how about a quaha with a limp?
Oh no. We're just going down the drain right now.
Yep. I'm gonna overpronounce all my P's now.
Please don't. All you're gonna do is spit on your computer, and then what good is that gonna do you?
I'll get a wipe. But yeah. So they've like I said, they find out some guy with a limp, which doesn't match anyone in their suspect pool. But then, like you said, Gregson calls, and it turns out another beneficiary, someone tried to kill, but this time failed. And look who it is! Dun dun dun.
Yes, we see it right. We see her right behind him.
And then we get that. Oh god, that obvious. I mean, this was a little obvious even for the writers, where they go, "Oh, Gregson's and right in frame of the camera goes, maybe she'll surprise us."
Yeah. I like how it's kind of weird. Sherlock seems a little suspicious at first, but then he still doesn't get it right away because it doesn't make sense. But you can see on his face he knows something is up.
Yeah, because some things just don't sit.
Yeah, it doesn't add
up. So they go to let's just say it, the killer's house.
Yeah.
And they interview her. I almost wish, because like I said, the fact that we know the killer keeps reminding me of Columbo. And my favorite part, I mean, Sherlock has done this with other episodes, but he doesn't really do this here. I always liked how the guilty, like he would suggest stuff, and the guilty person would always volunteer evidence in Columbo,
Yeah.
Like she would go, "Why would you say that? Listen, the reason," and Columbo would go, "Whoa, I didn't say anything."
Yeah.
Like it's so now now that's what makes her a good killer. She doesn't really act guilty,
right?
And well, she does. She kind of. Well, it's to us. She might look a couple of things she says obvious guilty because we know she's a killer. But she's like, I didn't really see him walk. I just.
Yeah, actually, everything. It's the evidence that doesn't add up. It's not what she says.
And really, if she hadn't gone on the news, Sherlock might not have put two and two together.
Right. I mean, it takes her little crazy speech there, and then it's just obvious to everyone. It's so stupid.
Well, it doesn't make any. It doesn't. Well, Sherlock, it makes him suspicious, of course, and then even Gregson's like, why would she? Like, they're all like, the ones who aren't suspicious think, why would she do it? Now, at first, when they were checking her footprints, I was thinking, I thought she was really smart and faking the limp. But then I realized, no, the shoe print, the tread.
Right, it was just shoe, yeah.
It would, because he had the limp for quite a while. And so Sherlock looks over the scene, and something doesn't sit right with him. And then later on we get the nice little speech where she's like, what my husband was worth, which was pleasant.
Well, I mean, we find out that he had already added all those things up. That's why he was suspicious, but he just couldn't, maybe he would have figured out it was her, even if she didn't go on TV, because none of those things added up at all. The shoe print and
Well, the fence is what really does not sit well with him.
Right. And then and then it seems like he just adds on that little, she lives on the lower floor. So it's like, oh, a limp and she lives on the lower floor. It seemed like he already put it together, but we didn't know that until after.
Well, he even says like all these things are in his mind, but he doesn't see how they connect.
Right. He probably would have connected it. I don't think they had to do her crazy speech where it's so obvious. You know, where she goes on TV. I don't think they would have had to do that. He could have solved it without that. Because it just became, it was a little too much. It was just so nuts.
Yeah, I know. Well, because she's someone who gets what she wants.
Yeah. But I mean, even the sister at that point knew that she did it, basically.
Yeah, well, another thing that stands out to Sherlock is the fact that the first two crimes were like up close and personal. This time was different, but that's okay. I know it's a weird thing to notice because I'm watching it as we're podcasting, but if you look at the scene where she's doing the news story, she's like a little different. Like she's trying to, because she wants her money, so she's like she's like a little emotional and she's blinking more. But this is but like you said, this is what makes Gregson suspicious, makes Watson suspicious, and makes Sherlock goes, Well,
it makes everyone not just suspicious because of how all these how the two murders went down, and everybody knows about how the two murders went down. I think it makes everyone suspicious. I mean, it made her sister suspicious.
Well,
it made everyone.
I get
suspicious.
The sketch from now. Of course, sketches are rival, but it looks enough like the husband to make them even more suspicious. So they look, and this is, we get one of the best parts of the show. That's like the best aspect. Sherlock, see, this is how it should be. Sherlock does the heavy deductions, then Watson does some deductions, and then she does something medical. It's her medical knowledge that helps solve this case.
Right.
She looks at the guy, sees the symptoms, and that makes them look into the husband. And then we get, like you said, the scene with the sister, and where she was probably about to kill her sister, where she says, and this is like something out of a Criminal Minds episode, how much are you worth?
I know. It was so evil, creepy. Evil, creepy. That's exactly the term for her.
As opposed to good, creepy?
Evil, creepy. Well, just creepy evil. I don't know. But she's evil and she's creepy.
I like how the sister goes, I didn't call them.
Oh, yeah. She's like, I didn't do it. Don't kill me. You know?
Well, I don't know if the sister saw her going for the knife.
I don't think she saw her going for the knife, but I'm pretty sure she knew that her sister was crazy enough to kill.
Really
I think she was afraid for her life anyway.
I love this little, because this really shows how crazy the sister is. Like she says how when you couldn't understand why our parents paid for me to go to grad school but wouldn't get you a car. And she just looks at her like, yeah.
Yeah, that whole scene, it was giving me like goosebumps. I was like, ugh.
I know. It's just like
it's so uncomfortable.
I mean, we find out that she left home because her parents wouldn't buy her a car. Oh, poor little baby.
That actually reminds me of someone else in real life.
We all know people like that.
We won't go into that.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, there was a really ridiculous one. It was hilarious, but no, okay, I won't.
Oh, we all know someone like that. I mean, it's funny because I think this is obviously a jab at the 1%ers, because any one of us, if our parents said to us, "We're paying for your grad school," we'll be like, "Okay."
Yeah. Well, I don't think all 1%ers are the same either.
Well, obviously not, but
yeah, I mean, some of them are really good people. Actually, a lot of them are, celebrities too. So.
Well, actually, celebrities aren't as many 1%ers as you would think. Obviously, their lifestyle allows for better than us, but the 1%ers really are the ones who could like buy and small countries and cry poverty.
Yeah, but there are some celebrities like that. So, and a lot of them give a lot to charity and stuff. And well, it's not even just about charity, just like providing some. Well, anyway, let's not get into this. Let's not get into this either. This is like the gun control argument.
Oh, we should say
Let's not
before
do
we
that.
jumped ahead. Before
Let's not
we
go
jumped ahead,
there.
before they talk about the killers, he talks to her. This is when he talks to her about why he was keeping her stuff in her apartment. Because he's saying to her, he's worried that she's only doing it because of what happened with Andrew, because to shut herself out from the world. And while he wants her to move in, that and he even says he hopes he hasn't influenced it. He doesn't want to be an enabler, which is an interesting reference to addiction, because addiction can take many forms, and it is true, and we'll see how that goes. And so we get that little moment there.
Yeah.
So, and this is when they confront, obviously they confront the wife, and it turns out her husband had a brain tumor and might have been planning to kill himself. They don't,
And got the
yeah,
gun.
they don't know for sure, but either way, it's enough evidence. And it turns out because of the company with the algorithm, and this is when it all falls in place, because we find out that they would have factored that in, and she would have gotten a lot less money because he only had.
Well, they would have done an investigation. I think part of it wasn't even just that she would get less money, but also that they would have found out that she was worth less. You know.
Well, that's what I mean. But they would have found out that, because the whole point of the algorithm is, and a lot of places do that, is they factor in how much he would have made the rest of his life. And obviously,
Right. No. What I was saying is, I don't think it was I mean, she's totally obsessed with money, but also I think she doesn't want anybody else to know that she is not worth as much as she. I mean, she likes walking around and acting like she's rich.
right. That
I
too,
mean,
but
that's
it was
like really obvious, the way she carries herself and the way she talks to everyone, like she's better than
she's a
them.
Stepford wife.
Yeah.
So we see here that I know she's, because like the husband, I think they said he had a couple months to live, so it probably
Yeah.
she wouldn't have gotten a lot of money.
Right.
But it's funny when you think about it, because we would say if she wasn't a killer, her husband died, she deserves more money. But that's not. I mean, that's not her reason. She just wants the money.
You know, for a second there, I actually thought that she figured out some way to bring down the plane.
Oh, you were going for really psychopath. What, she
Yeah.
found out about the tumor and decided to kill him?
Yeah, cause well, it was the order that they presented that evidence, and for a second, just for a second, I thought they were gonna say that, you know, that was gonna be part of it.
Also, of course, the evidence suggests, but really, I think she could get out, and she still might get out of that in court, because it's really, while it's good evidence, a lot of it's circumstantial. There is none physical evidence tying her to the murders.
Right.
And this,
But there is the fact that people hate her. I mean, most people saw her on that news segment, you know, where she said what she said, and they would probably present that in court,
but
maybe.
still, a good lawyer might at least get a sentence reduced or something, because
Yeah.
it's really like, without the gun, which I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised she's smart enough to get rid of. And with no physical evidence, and no evidence really. I mean, sure, there's a sketch that looks like her husband tied to her gun, but that's it. Just looks like it. So,
But with the right jury, the jury would
yes, but
hate her. Someone like her, you
perhaps
know?
this is one of the reasons why we know who she is, because I could see her coming back as a killer. Because think of it, she's already got her own. I mean, she starts. Imagine if she gets addicted to it and starts killing people and leaving how much they're worth. I mean, that's a Criminal Minds episode right there.
Yeah, they should do a crossover. It is on the same
Oh,
network.
they've never
all.
done I don't think they could, really, because as cool as that would be, you got to remember Sherlock hates profilers.
That's actually what would make it so good.
Oh God! Oh yeah, like any of them would put up with freaking. Oh.
I think that would be hilarious, actually. Anyway, but they would never do
and
that.
Then we get that great moment when Sherlock says, "What do you think you deserve?"
I love the way he said that. Just it's darkly funny too. And the look on her face, the way he says it and the look on her face, it's actually kind of funny in a really dark way.
Yeah, it's just really. Then we get that nice moment back at the brownstone where, like, again, Sherlock's. Well, it's more on what we were saying earlier. Sherlock's just he wants to make sure she's doing it for the right reasons.
Yes. Watson keeping her balance by nailing the door closed.
Yeah, which in a lot of ways doesn't make. I mean, she could just. Oh well, yeah. Of course, she locks it. Sherlock can still get through. I guess that's probably the reason why.
But I love how he's okay with it. I like he has like a little bit of he seems kind of worried at first. He's like, is that a nail gun? But then he seems totally okay with
it's an
everything.
unusual, eclectic solution. So of course Sherlock's going to be all for. Oh, we forgot.
No, I love that.
There's something I completely
great.
forgot to we forgot to mention that the scene was because, like I said, I'm skimming through the episode as we're talking. She went shopping.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention the fact that she went shopping to celebrate the fact that she's getting the money.
Yeah.
And of course, like you said, the sister. No.
Okay. At first, I didn't know what you were connecting to.
Sorry,
okay, so
the killer.
Yeah.
She went before her sister. Right before her sister says, I know you're the killer. Why did you make that? Oh God, I should have written this down. When she confronts her about what she said on the thing, she's all skitterish and she's got the crazy eyes. She goes, "You don't think I deserve more?" It's like I'd be like, "Okay, I'm gonna back away now." But I just.
Well, yeah, and the sister. I mean, she looked. The sister seemed really suspicious of her to begin with after seeing the news segment, but then the way she looks at her the way the sister looks at Dana and the all the shopping bags, the way she looks at the shopping bags, and you see it like cemented in her mind right at that moment. She sees the shopping bag, she's like, and then she starts getting the tears in her eyes. And she's like, "Oh man, I was right."
So we get to see at the end when so Sherlock, so she moves in. I'm curious to see where they go with that, but I mean, if it's
you mean the whole? Now we're back. In the basement?
I just want to mention the shopping because it's just I forgot about it. It's just oh my God. So it's I mean I'm curious to see because the writers always do things for a reason. I'm curious to see how this will follow through in the rest of the season.
It's funny how it actually it made me think of that show Income Property on HGTV.
I never watched that one particularly.
Oh, they renovate basically like a basement that's cut off from the top.
Oh, okay.
And so they have a separate entrance.
Oh, that should be an episode.
And basically, they have their own rental property that's part of the main house.
Watch should say that. I want to hire a home makeover show. So that's.
But that would be a good Income Property.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the end of the episode, and I liked it. I mean, I could watch it again because and mostly, of course, I love Sherlock in it, but it's just she was so good as a killer.
She was. I mean,
if you know, this show does femme fatale so good.
It does. Well, except for one.
Oh, what was the weak femme fatale?
That oh my God. Oh, we talked about it too. It was this season. The blonde, and it had
with the weed.
With the weed.
Yeah, the guy she tried to frame the cartel. You mean her?
Oh, yeah. Wait, the one that had to do with the map?
Oh, her. Oh,
yeah.
Her. Yeah, well, actually, both of them, really. Well,
yeah, actually, yeah, both of them.
Well, just because it's a female killer doesn't mean she has to be a femme fatale. But when she's the methodical, they do the methodical female killer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were a couple that were duds. This one was not a dud.
Yeah. And there was really good deductions. Watson, there was no moments where Watson figured out something that Holmes easily could have. No, she figured out something medical that Holmes wouldn't immediately have thought of, or even known. So I would give this. I would give this a good rating. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it for a change. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite, but I thought it was pretty good. The one thing that stood out like a sore thumb though was that news conference where she basically tells the world that she's nuts,
Yeah.
and everybody knows it's her. They didn't need that at all. It kind of threw it off actually, but besides that, I thought it was a pretty good episode.
Right.
I liked it.
So now it's time for Kristen's Clue Cap.
So the crime this week was the murder of 2 people, and the first clue was the formula for finding the worth of a person, which was found on the first body, and that led them to the attorney who had come up with the formula. And this is also where we get the first mention of the downed flight that the attorney was possibly going to be involved with. And then the second clue, there was the second murder, and that revealed that both victims were on that flight that had been mentioned. And the third clue, way farther in the episode, the third clue was that Dana, the killer, lived on the bottom floor of a large house. And then the next clue was the wear on the shoes of the killer. It showed that the killer had a limp, and someone with a limp had also bought the gun that had been used. And then, and also the person with a limp had to jump a fence, okay, to get out of Dana's yard. And so, and also the killer didn't try to kill Dana up close. And of course, we know ahead of time that Dana's the killer, but these are all the clues that Sherlock and Watson get along the way. And so, and then of course, Dana's statements to the media are basically a clue to her obsession with money. And and then they find that Dana was in the same support group as the 2 victims and had talked one of them up. And so, and then, after that, basically everyone knows that she's the killer, but they just have to prove it. So then they find the evidence that the shoes and the gun probably belonged to her husband, and that he had the brain tumor, which is why, probably why he bought the gun, and that he wouldn't have been worth as much if paid on the one system where they all get paid different amounts based on their worth. And that they would have investigated that and found that she wasn't, quote unquote, worth as much. And so basically she's just a psycho freak obsessed with money, and hopefully she's going down. So that's it for the clue cap.
Okay, so I'll do favorite lines. I have 2, and the first one is about Luke, when he says he speaks not a word of English. In fact, he hardly speaks at all, which is one of his many redeeming qualities. Actually, both my favorite lines are right in this scene, because the other line is, I've hired movers, and they will come into the brownstone over my moldering corpse.
Yeah. That was a good one.
So yeah, definitely a good episode. I'm looking forward to it. And next week's episode looks quite interesting. It looks like Sherlock's in a little trouble.
Yes, I think that's in 2 weeks, right?
Oh, you're right. Now that we have a break, everything's taking a break right now. Boo.
Yeah.
So we'd like to remind our fans, I'm going to talk like this for the next 2 minutes. No, like if you want to get,
Please don't. It's like the put.
If you want to get in touch, you mean I shouldn't say Baker Street Podcast?
No.
Baker Street Podcast at gmail.com, Baker Street Pod on Twitter, and of course, Baker Street Podcast on Facebook.
Ew, now I just imagine spit all over your computer.
Hey, I'm an actor. I enunciate. When you enunciate, you spit.
Don't do that.
It's not even. Okay, for any listeners confused, no, me and Kristen are not in the same room, so this doesn't affect her in any way.
Wipe your computer right now.
There.
Yeah, I know you didn't do
Perhaps we should finish up Is there anything else you like to touch upon?
Nope.
Okay. I'm suddenly wishing there were P's in your name. Okay, Preston.
There's not.
Okay, this has been the Baker Street Podcast with Preston Prier.
Hey.
All right, it's time to depart. Depart. Good thing the catchphrase doesn't have any P's in it, doesn't it? And on that heavy sigh from Kristen, we will leave, for the game is afoot.